Unit 6, Lesson 1, Tape Diagrams and Equations. Number 1. Here is an equation. X plus 4 equals 17. A. Draw a tape diagram to represent the equation. The green rectangle represents X, the four smaller rectangles represents 4, and together they represent 17. B. Which part of the diagram shows the quantity X? The quantity X is represented by the larger green rectangle. What about 4? Again, the four smaller rectangles represent the value 4. What about 17? The green rectangle and the four smaller blue rectangles combined equal 17. C. How does the diagram show that X plus 4 has the same value as 17? An unknown amount added to 4 equals 17. The X represents the unknown amount. Number 2. Diego is trying to find the value of X, and 5 times X equals 35. He draws this diagram, but is not certain how to proceed. A. Complete the tape diagram so it represents the equation 5 times X equals 35. I made all the X's red, and I made all the smaller rectangles green, and combined all 5 X's would equal 35. So I added the purple 35 to show that the total would equal 35. B. Find the value of X. I know that 35 divided by 5 equals 7, so the value for X would be 7. 7 plus 7 plus 7 plus 7 plus 7 would equal 35. Number 3. For each equation, draw a tape diagram and find the unknown value. A. X plus 9 equals 16. My green rectangle represents X, the unknown value, plus 9 smaller rectangles would equal 16. So in green is the unknown value. The red rectangles represent 9, and then purple represents the combined total of X plus 9, and that would equal 16. The value would be the same as 16 minus 9, which would be 7. So X equals 7. Since 16 minus 9 equals 7, then 7 plus 9 would equal 16. B. 4 times X equals 28. The green rectangles represent 4. The X inside each rectangle represents the value. So 4 times what value equals 28? That's going to be the same as 28 divided by 4, and that equals 7. Since 28 divided by 4 equals 7, then 4 times 7 would equal 28. The value for X would be 7. Number 4. Match each equation to one of the two tape diagrams. A. X plus 3 equals 9. That would be matched with diagram B. B. 3 plus X equals 9. That would be matched with diagram A. C. 9 equals 3 times X. That would also be matched with diagram A. D. 3 plus X equals 9. That would be matched with diagram B. E. X equals 9 minus 3. That would also be matched with diagram B. F. X equals 9 divided by 3. That would be matched with diagram A. G. X plus X plus X equals 9. That would also be matched with diagram A. Number 5. A shopper paid $2.52 for 4 5/10 pounds of potatoes, $7.75 for 2 5/10 pounds of broccoli, and $2.45 for 2 5/10 pounds of pears. What is the unit price of each item she bought? Show your reasoning. Pound of potatoes is on the right in red, and the dollar amount that she paid is on the left in green. She paid $2.52 for 4 5/10 pounds of potatoes. So to find the unit price, the price for just 1 pound, we would have to divide 4 5/10 by 4 5/10. And that gives us 1 pound. Since we divided the right side, or the pounds, by 4 5/10, we'd also have to divide the left side, or dollars, by 4 5/10. So 2 52 hundredths divided by 4 5/10 equals 56 hundredths, or 56 cents. The potato was 56 cents per pound. Broccoli was $7.75 for 2 5/10 pounds. So again, we need to get the pounds to its unit price. So 2 5/10 divided by 2 5/10 equals 1 pound. Now we need to divide $7.75 by 2 5/10, and that is 3 1/10. She paid $3.10 a pound for broccoli. The pears cost her $2.45 for 2 5/10 pounds. In order to find out the unit price per pound for pears, we need to divide 2 5/10 by 2 5/10 to get 1 pound. $2.45 divided by 2 5/10 equals 98 hundredths, or 98 cents. The price she paid for pears was 98 cents per pound. Number 6. A sports drink bottle contains 16 9/10 fluid ounces. Andre drank 80% of the bottle. How many fluid ounces did Andre drink? Show your reasoning. Well, if the sports bottle contains 16 9/10 ounces, that would be 100% of the bottle. If Andre drank 80% of the bottle, we'd have to figure out how to find 80%. I'm going to start by changing 100% to 10% by making it 10 times smaller. 10 times smaller than 100% is 10%. Now I need to make 16 9/10 ounces 10 times smaller. 16 9/10 ounces divided by 10 would be 1 69 hundredths ounces. So 10% would be 1 69 hundredths ounces. Now to figure out what 80% would be is I'm just going to multiply the 10% times 8 to get 80, and I need to multiply 1 69 hundredths ounces by 8, and that gives me 13 52 hundredths ounces. Andre drank 80% of the bottle, and 80% of the bottle is 13 52 hundredths ounces. Number 7. The daily recommended allowance of calcium for a 6th grader is 1,200 milligrams. 1 cup of milk has 25% of the recommended daily allowance of calcium. How many milligrams of calcium are in 1 cup of milk? If you get stuck, consider using the double number line. 100% is 1,200. 50% would be half of that, so 50% would be 600. And I know that 25% is half of 50%, so half of 600 would be 300. So 25% of 1,200 is 300. There are 300 milligrams of calcium in 1 cup of milk. Congratulations, you've completed Unit 6, Lesson 1, Tape Diagrams and Equations. Unit 6, Lesson 2, Truth and Equations. Number 1, select all the true equations. I selected B, 15 times 0 equals 0, C, 1 4/10 plus 2 7/10 equals 4 1/10, and E, 4 2/3 equals 5 minus 1/3. Number 2, Mai's water bottle had 24 ounces in it. After she drank X ounces of water, there were 10 ounces left. Select all the equations that represent this situation. I selected C, 24 minus 10 equals X, and D, X plus 10 equals 24. Number 3, Priya has 5 pencils, each X inches in length. When she lines up the pencils end to end, they measure 34 5/10 inches. Select all the equations that represent this situation. I selected B, 5x equals 34 5/10, and C, 34 5/10 divided by 5 equals x. Number 4. Match each equation with a solution from the list of values. A. 2a equals 4 6/10. I match that up with number 3. 2 3/10. Since 2 times 2 3/10 equals 4 6/10. B. b plus 2 equals 4 6/10. I match that up with number 4. 2 6/10, because 2 6/10 plus 2 equals 4 6/10. C. c divided by 2 equals 4 6/10. I match that up with number 6, 9 2/10, because 9 2/10 divided by 2 equals 4 6/10. D. d minus 2 equals 4 6/10. I match that up with number 5 because 6 6/10 minus 2 equals 4 6/10. E. e plus 3/8 equals 2. I match that up with number 2 because 1 5/8 plus 3/8 equals 2. F. 1/8 of f equals 3. I match that up with number 7 because 24 divided by 8 equals 3, or 1/8 of 24 equals 3. G. g divided by 8/5 equals 1. I match that up with number 1 because 8/5 divided by 8/5 equals 1. Number 5. The daily recommended allowance of vitamin C for a 6th grader is 45 milligrams. One orange has about 75% of the recommended daily allowance of vitamin C. How many milligrams are in one orange? If you get stuck, consider using the double number line. 100% equals 45 milligrams. Half of 100% is 50%. So half of 45 is 22 5/10. Half of 50% is 25%, so half of 22 5/10 would be 11 25/100. So 75% would be 50% plus 25%, and the amount of milligrams that would be in one orange would be 22 5/10 plus 11 25/100. So one orange, or 75% of the daily recommended allowance of vitamin C, would be 33 75/100. Number 6. There are 90 kids in the band. 20% of the kids own their own instruments, and the rest rent them. A. How many kids own their own instruments? 100% of the kids in the band is 90. 10% of 100 is 10%, and 10% of 90 is 9. I know that 20% is 2 times greater than 10%, so 9 times 2 is 18. There are 18 students in the band who own their own instruments. B. How many kids rent instruments? 90 minus 18 equals 72. 72 kids rent their instruments. C. What percentage of kids rent their instruments? Well, if 20% own their own instruments and the rest of them rent, then 100% of the kids minus the 20% who own equals 80%. So 80% of the kids rent their instruments. Congratulations! You've completed Unit 6, Lesson 2, Truth and Equations. Unit 6, Lesson 3, Staying in Balance. Number 1. Select all the equations that represent the hanger. I selected A, x plus x plus x equals 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1, and I selected C, 3x equals 6, or 3 times x equals 6. Number 2. Write an equation to represent each hanger. A. 2x plus 3, or 2 times x plus 3. B. W plus 1 3/10 equals 2 7/10. C. 3y equals 5 1/10, or 3 times y equals 5 1/10. D. Z plus 1/3 equals 1/2. Number 3. A. Write an equation to represent the hanger. 2x equals 14 62/100, or 2 times x equals 14 62/100. B. Explain how to reason with the hanger to find the value of x. Well, I wrote an answer in green. To find the value of x, I would remove half of the 2 x's, leaving just 1 x. I would also have to remove half of the value on the other side of the hanger to keep it balanced. C. Explain how to reason with the equation to find the value of x. On the right-hand side underneath the hanger, I wrote in red, 2x equals 14 62/100. I would divide the 2x by 2 to make just 1x because I want to find the value of just 1x. And since I divided the 2x side by 2, I'd need to divide the other side by 2. So 14 62/100 divided by 2 is 7 31/100. So the value for 1x on that hanger would be 7 31/100. Number 4. Andre says that x is 7 because he can move the 2 1s with the x to the other side. Do you agree with Andre? Explain your reasoning. No, I don't agree with Andre because moving the 2 1s to the other side would not be balanced. If x plus 1 plus 1 balances with 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1, that's like saying x plus 2 balances with 5. And if Andre were to take the 2 1s from the x side and add it to the 5 on the other side, x would not be balanced with 7, because this illustration shows that x plus 2 balances with 5. Number 5. Match each equation to one of the diagrams. I matched A, 12 minus m equals 4, with diagram B, because 4 plus m equals 12, which also means that 12 minus m equals 4. B. I matched B, 12 equals 4m, with D, because 4m's added up equals 12. C. I matched C, m minus 4 equals 12, with A, because the diagram shows that 12 plus 4 is the same length as m. So m minus 4 would equal 12. D. M over 4 equals 12, or m divided by 4 equals 12. I matched that with C because 12 times 4 equals m, as shown in the diagram, so m divided by 4 would equal 12. Number 6. The area of a rectangle is 14 square units. It has side lengths A and B. Given the following values for A, find B. Number 1. A equals 2 1/3. So remember, the area equals base times height, and they gave us the area, which was 14. So 14 equals 2 1/3 times the height, or 2 1/3 times the unknown number. 14 divided by 2 1/3 would give us the unknown number. 14 divided by 2 1/3 is the same as 14 divided by 7/3. We can find that answer by multiplying 14 by the reciprocal of 7/3. 14 times 3/7 equals 6. B equals 6. Number 2. A equals 4 1/5. So the area equals 4 1/5 times an unknown number. And they told us that the area was 14. So 14 equals 4 1/5 times an unknown number. And to figure out what that unknown number is, we can do 14 divided by 4 1/5, or 14 divided by 21/5 equals the unknown number. We can find that answer by multiplying 14 by the reciprocal of 21/5. 14 times 5 over 21 equals 10/3, or 3 1/3. B equals 3 1/3. 3. A equals 7/6. The area equals 7/6 times an unknown number. So we know the area is 14. So 14 equals 7/6 times an unknown number. 14 divided by 7/6 will tell us what the unknown number is. And we can do that by multiplying 14 by the reciprocal of 7/6. 14 times 6/7 equals 12. B equals 12. Number 7. Lynn needs to save up $20 for a new game. How much money does she have if she has saved the following percentages of her goal? Explain your reasoning. A. 25%. So if she's saved 25% of $20, we can figure that out by making a chart like the one I made above. $20 represents 100% of her goal. I can figure out what 25% is by dividing 100% by 4 to get 25% and dividing 20 by 4 to get 5. So I know that 25% of her goal would be $5, or $5 is 25% of her goal. B. 75%. If she saved up 75% of her goal, that would be 3 times greater than 25%. So what's 3 times greater than 5? 15. So 75% would be $15. C. 125% of her goal. Well, 100% of her goal would be $20, and 25% of her goal is $5. So $20 plus $5 is $25. 125% of her goal is $25. Congratulations! You have completed Unit 6, Lesson 3, Staying in Balance. Unit 6, Lesson 4, Practicing solving equations and representing situations with equations. Number 1. Select all the equations that describe each situation and then find the solution. A. Karen's backpack weighs 3 pounds less than Claire's backpack. Claire's backpack weighs 14 pounds. How much does Karen's backpack weigh? I chose 1, x plus 3 equals 14, and 3, x equals 14 minus 3. X equals 11 pounds. Karen's backpack weighs 11 pounds. B. Each notebook contains 60 sheets of paper. Andre has 5 notebooks. How many sheets of paper do Andre's notebooks contain? I selected 2, y equals 5 times 60, and 3, y over 5 equals 60, or y divided by 5 equals 60. Andre's notebooks contain 300 pages total. Number 2. Solve each equation. A. 2x equals 5. I built the chart. On the left-hand side, I have the number of x's, and on the right-hand side, I have the number of units. 2x equals 5 units. In order to get 1x, I divided the 2x by 2, and I got 1x. Then I had to divide the 5 by 2, and I got 5 over 2, or 2.5. X equals 2.5. B. Y plus 1 8/10 equals 14 7/10. And I got 12 9/10. Y equals 12 9/10. C. 6 equals 1/2 z. On the right-hand side, I have the number of z's. On the left-hand side, I have the number of units. 6 units equals 1/2 z. In order to make 1 full z, I had to multiply that 1/2 by 2. 1/2 times 2 equals 1. I also needed to multiply the 6 units by 2. And 6 times 2 equals 12. Since 6 units equals 1/2 z, 12 units equals 1 z. Z equals 12. D. 3 1/4 equals 1/2 plus w. I set this one up like the hanger that we practiced in the previous lesson. Well, if I want to find out the value for w, I have to get rid of the 1/2. So I take away 1/2 from the w side, and then I take away 1/2 from the 3 1/4 side to make sure that they still balance. So now at the very bottom, I have a W all by itself and a 2 3/4 because 3 1/4 minus 1/2 equals 2 3/4. The value for W is 2 3/4. E. 2 5/10 times T equals 10. I put the units on the right-hand side and the number of T's on the left-hand side. So 2 5/10 T's equals 10 units. In order to find out how much 1 T is worth, I have to divide 2 5/10 by 2 5/10, and that gives me 1. So I have 1 T on the left-hand column. Since I divided this column by 2 5/10, I need to divide the 10 in the other column by 2 5/10. 10 divided by 2 5/10 is the same as 100 divided by 25, like we learned in one of the previous lessons. 100 divided by 25 is 4. So when there's 1 T, it's worth 4 units. T equals 4. Number 3. For each equation, draw a tape diagram that represents the equation. A. 3x equals 18, or 3 times x equals 18. I drew my tape diagram and I divided it up into 3 groups. It totals 18. You don't have to put the 6 on the inside of each one of the groups, but I did because I know that 3 times 6 equals 18. B. 3 plus x equals 18. And you can see in my tape diagram that I have 3 small sections and 1 larger section to represent x. So those 3 small sections plus the larger x section equals 18. One way to figure out the value for x is 18 minus 3, and 18 minus 3 is 15. So we know that that larger section, x, is worth 15. C. 17 minus 6 equals x. So I have a large value for x, and then I have 6 pieces on the end. All of them combined total 17. But if you take away the 6 pieces on the right, then it equals x. So 17 minus 6 equals x. Number 4. Find each product. A. 21 2/10 times 2/100. So you can set it up as a multiplication problem like I did in this first example on the top, or what I find more interesting is multiply them as fractions. So 21 2/10 is the same thing as 212/10 times 2/100. I have this set up on the bottom left-hand corner. 212/10 times 2/100 equals 424 thousandths, or as a decimal, 424 thousandths, 0.424. B. 2 5/100 times 4 thousandths. Again, you can set it up as a multiplication problem like I did on the top and the right-hand side, or you can set it up as multiplying fractions like I did on the bottom. 2 5/100 is the same as 200/500. 4 thousandths is 4 over 1,000. So 200/500 times 4 thousandths equals 820 hundred-thousandths, or 0.00820. But you don't need that 0 on the right-hand side, so you can write it as 82 ten-thousandths. Number 5. For a science experiment, students need to find 25% of 60 grams. Jada says, I can find this by calculating 1/4 of 60. Andre says, 25% of 60 means 25 over 100 times 60. Lynn says both of their methods work. Do you agree with Lynn? Explain your reasoning. Yes, I agree with Lynn because 25% is the same as 1/4 of 100%. In this situation, 100% of the grams is 60 grams, and 1/4 of 60 is 15. 25% of 60 is also 15. Another way to look at it is at the very bottom in red. 25% equals 25 hundredths, or 25 over 100, which can be rewritten as 1/4. Congratulations, you have completed Unit 6, Lesson 4. Practice solving equations and representing situations with equations. Unit 6, Lesson 5. A new way to interpret A over B. Number 1. Select all expressions that equal 3 and 15/100 over 45/100. Well, 3 and 15/100 over 45/100 means 3 and 15/100 divided by 45/100. So we can circle B. We can circle C because 3 and 15/100 times 1 over 45/100 is the same thing as 3 and 15/100 over 45/100. 3 and 15/100 divided by 45 over 100 is the same thing as 3 and 15/100 divided by 45/100. So we can circle D. 3 and 15/100 times the reciprocal of 45/100 would be E. So we could circle E. Number 2. Which expressions are solutions to the equation 3/4 x equals 15? Select all that apply. I selected A and E because they're pretty much the same thing. E says 15 divided by 3/4, and that equals 20. And A says 15 divided by 3/4, because 15 over 3/4 means 15 divided by 3/4, and that equals 20. I selected C because 4/3 times 15 is the same as 15 times 4/3. And if you notice on A and E, when we divide by 4/3, it's the same as multiplying by its reciprocal, which is multiplying by 4/3, which is what we did for C. So I would select A, C, and E. I also drew a picture of the problem as a diagram below, where all 4 of the units represent X. Each unit has a 5 on the inside, and the first 3 out of 4 units represents 3/4, or 3/4 of X. And the value of 3/4 of X would be 15, because 5 plus 5 plus 5 equals 15, or 5 times 3 equals 15. You don't need to include this illustration at the bottom. I just put it there to help you better understand it. Number 3. Solve each equation. A. 4x equals 32. Here's a couple illustrations to help you understand how to solve this. The first diagram is a table on the left side of the screen. The column on the left has the number of x's in it, and the column on the right has the number of units. So 4 x's equals 32 units. To figure out what 1 x is worth, I needed to divide 4 by 4. That gives me 1 x. Since I divided the number of x's by 4, I need to divide the number of units by 4. So 32 divided by 4 equals 8. So 1x equals 8. I also drew a couple hangers. The first hanger shows the hanger balanced with 4 x's on one side and 32 units on the other. The second hanger shows 1 x on the left side and 8 units on the right side, still in balance, so 8 equals x. So once again, 4x divided by 4 equals 1x, and 32 divided by 4 equals 8, so x equals 8. B. 4 equals 32x. Directly under this equation, I have a table, and in the left-hand column, I have the x's. On the right-hand column, I have the units. So 32 x's equals 4 units, or 32x equals 4. To figure out how much 1x is worth, I need to divide the number of x's by 32, and that gives me 1x. And I also need to divide the other side by 32. So 4 divided by 32 equals 1/8. So x equals 1/8. I also showed it as a hanger. 4 units on the left side is in balance with 32 x's on the right-hand side. The hanger that has 1x on the right-hand side is in balance with 1/8 unit. X equals 1/8. C. 10x equals 26. So again, I have a table with the x's on the left side and the units on the right. 10 x's divided by 10 equals 1x. Since I divided that column by 10, I have to divide the other column by 10. 26 divided by 10 equals 2 and 6/10. So 1x equals 2 6/10. The hanger shows in balance 10 x's on the left and 26 units on the right. And underneath that, you see a hanger in balance with 1 x on the left and 2 6/10 on the right. X equals 2 6/10. D. 26 equals 100x. Again, in the table, I have the x's on the left and the units on the right. 100 x's divided by 100 equals 1x. I also have to divide the units by 100. 26 divided by 100 equals 26 hundredths. X equals 26 hundredths. I also represent this on the left with a hanger. 26 units is in balance with 100 x's. And below it, 26 hundredth units is in balance with 1x, so x equals 26 hundredths. Number 4. For each equation, write a story problem represented by the equation. For each equation, state what the quantity x represents. If you get stuck, draw a diagram. 3/4 plus x equals 2. Well, I did draw a diagram, but first let me read my story. 3/4 of a dollar plus the price of a drink totals $2. What is the price of the drink? Look on the left-hand side of the diagram. I have 4 boxes in black. The first box is X'd out. The other 3 boxes are identified as being 3/4. In other words, 3/4 of 1 full unit, with 1 full unit being represented as 4 boxes. Next to it in blue, you see 5 boxes. That means that it's larger than 1 full unit. It takes 4 boxes to make 1 full unit, and in blue we have 5 boxes. And the value of 5 boxes would be 1 1/4 unit. 1 1/4 unit added to the 3/4 would be worth 2 full units. Anyway, in this diagram, x represents 1 1/4, or 5 out of 4. 1 5/10 x equals 6. 1 1/2 tickets cost $6. How much does 1 ticket cost? In my diagram, I have 3 boxes. Each box is worth 2. I put 2 inside each box because 2 times 3 equals 6, and 1 1/2 tickets cost $6. 1x has a value of 2 boxes, or 2 plus 2. So the value for x is 4. X equals 4. Number 5. Write as many mathematical expressions or equations as you can about the image. Include a fraction, a decimal number, or a percentage in each. Well, it says that their fundraiser goal is $250,000, and the image shows that so far they've raised $110,000. 110,000 divided by 250,000 is 0.44, which is the same as 44 hundredths. They've raised 44%. 110,000 divided by 250,000 is the same as 110 divided by 250. It's also the same as 11 divided by 25, and 11 divided by 25, or 11/25, is the same as 44 hundredths, and 44 hundredths is also 44%. 110,000 equals 44% of 250,000. In order to reach their goal, they still need to raise $140,000, and 140,000 divided by 250,000 is 0.56, or 56 hundredths. They still need to raise another 56% of their goal in order to reach their goal. Number 6. In a lilac paint mixture, 40% of the mixture is white paint, 20% is blue, and the rest is red. There are 4 cups of blue paint used in a batch of lilac paint. A. How many cups of white paint are used? Well, they tell me that blue paint represents 20% of the mixture and that there's 4 cups of blue paint. So if you double 20%, you get 40%. And that's the percentage for the white mixture. So we'd also have to double the 4 cups. If we double 4 cups, we would get 8 cups. So 8 cups of white paint would be 40% of the mixture. There are 8 cups of white paint used. B. How many cups of red paint are used? Well, the rest of it is red. So if there's 40% white, 20% blue, that's a total of 60%. So 100% of the batch minus 60%, or minus the blue paint and the white paint, that's going to equal the red paint. So 100% minus 60% equals 40%. 40% would represent 8 cups, just like it did with the white paint. My drawing is not to scale, obviously, because the 40% red paint looks a lot smaller than the 40% of white paint. Maybe you could do a better job in your drawing than I did. C. How many cups of lilac paint will this batch yield? Well, if we count up all of the cups, we have 4 cups plus 8 cups plus 8 cups, and that totals 20 cups. This batch of lilac paint will yield 20 cups of paint. Number 7. Triangle P has a base of 12 inches and a corresponding height of 8 inches. Triangle Q has a base of 15 inches and a corresponding height of 6 5/10 inches. Which triangle has a greater area? Show your reasoning. Remember, the formula for an area of a triangle is half the base times the height. Triangle P, half of 12 times 8 equals 48 inches squared. And triangle Q, half of 15 times 6 5/10 equals 48 75/100 inches squared. So triangle Q has the greatest area with 48 75/100 inches squared. Congratulations, you've completed Unit 6, Lesson 5, a new way to interpret A over B. Unit 6, Lesson 6. Write expressions where letters stand for numbers. Number 1. Instructions for a craft project say that the length of a piece of red ribbon should be 7 inches less than the length of a piece of blue ribbon. A. How long is the red ribbon if the length of the blue ribbon is 10 inches? 10 inches minus 7 inches is 3 inches. 27 inches. 27 inches minus 7 inches is 20 inches. How long is the red ribbon if the length of the blue ribbon is x inches? X minus 7 is x minus 7 inches. B. How long is the blue ribbon if the red ribbon is 12 inches? If the red ribbon is 12 inches, the blue ribbon would be 7 inches longer. So 12 plus 7 equals 19. 19 inches. Number 2. Tyler has 3 times as many books as Mai. A. How many books does Mai have if Tyler has 15 books? Tyler's 15 books divided by 3 times as many equals 5. So Mai would have 5 books if Tyler had 15 books. How about if he had 21 books? Well, his 21 books divided by 3 equals 7. So when Tyler had 21 books, Mai would have 7 books. How about when Tyler has X number of books? X number of books divided by 3 equals X over 3 books. B. Tyler has 18 books. How many books does Mai have? Well, again, since Tyler has 3 times as many books as Mai, you'd figure it out by dividing 18 by 3, and that would be 6. So when Tyler has 18 books, Mai would have 6 books. Number 3. A bottle holds 24 ounces of water. It has X ounces of water in it. A. What does 24 minus X represent in this situation? 24 minus X represents the portion of the bottle that is empty, or the amount of water that has been removed from the bottle. B. Write a question about this situation that has 24 minus X for the answer. How many ounces have been poured from a 24-ounce bottle if it has X ounces in it? Number 4. Write an equation represented by this tape diagram that uses each of the following operations. A. Addition. 9 plus 9 plus 9 equals 27. B. Subtraction. 27 minus 9 minus 9 equals 9. C. Multiplication. 9 times 3 equals 27, or 3 times 9 equals 27. D. Division. 27 thirds equals 9, or 27 ninths equals 3, or 27 divided by 3 equals 9, or 27 divided by 9 equals 3. Number 5. Select all the equations that describe each situation and then find the solution. A. Han's house is 450 meters from school. Lynn's house is 135 meters closer to school. How far is Lynn's house from school? I selected Z equals 450 minus 135, and I selected Z plus 135 equals 450. 450 minus 135 equals 315, so Lynn's house is 315 meters away from school. B. Tyler's playlist has 36 songs. Noah's playlist has 1/4 as many songs as Tyler's playlist. How many songs are on Noah's playlist? W equals 36 divided by 4 represents 1/4 of the 36 songs in Tyler's playlist. And 4W equals 36. 4W means 4 times W, or 4 times the number of songs in Noah's playlist, and that would equal 36, the same number of songs in Tyler's playlist. The number of songs in Tyler's playlist, 36, divided by 4 equals the number of songs in Noah's playlist, and that's 9. There's 9 songs in Noah's playlist. Number 6. You had $50. You spent 10% of the money on clothes, 20% on games, and the rest on books. How much money was spent on books? In the table, $50 represents 100% of the money. I made the 100% 10 times smaller to get 10%, so I needed to make the $50 10 times smaller to get $5. I know that 10% times 2 equals 20%, and $5 times 2 equals $10. So 10% represents $5, and 20% represents $10. Also, 50% is half of 100%, and half of $50 is $25. Since you spent 10% of the money on clothes and 20% of the money on games, you spent a total of 30% of the money on clothes and games. That means that you still have 70% of the money to spend on books. And 70% is 50% plus 20%. And 50% of 50 is 25, and 20% of 50 is 10. So 25 plus 10 is 35. So 70% of $50 is $35. You spent $35 on books. Number 7. A trash bin has a capacity of 50 gallons. What percentage of its capacity is each of the following? Show your reasoning. A. 5 gallons is 10% the capacity of a 50-gallon trash bin. I used this double number line to help me figure this out. 100% capacity represents 50 gallons, and 10% capacity represents 5 gallons. So A, 5 gallons, is 10% of the capacity of a 50-gallon trash bin. B, 30 gallons. I doubled the 5 gallons to get 10 gallons, which means I needed to double the 10%, and that gave me 20%. I doubled the 10 gallons to get 20 gallons, and then I doubled the 20% to get 40%. So to represent 30 gallons, I can add 10 gallons plus 20 gallons. That gives me 30 gallons. And the 20% that represents the 10 gallons is added to 40% that represents the 20 gallons. So 20% plus 40% equals 60%. So 30 gallons is 60% capacity of the 50-gallon trash bin. C, 45 gallons. 45 gallons is the same as 20 gallons plus 20 gallons plus 5 gallons. So really we're adding 40% plus 40% plus 10%, and that equals 90%. So 45 gallons represents 90% of the capacity of a 50-gallon trash bin. D. 100 gallons. Well, 100 gallons is twice the capacity of a 50-gallon trash bin. So 2 times 50 equals 100 gallons. And 2 times 100% equals 200%. So 100 gallons would be 200% of a 50-gallon trash bin. Congratulations! You've completed Unit 6, Lesson 6, Write expressions where letters stand for numbers. Unit 6, Lesson 7, Revisit percentages. Number 1. A crew has paved 3/4 of a mile of road. If they have completed 50% of the work, how long is the road they are paving? In this diagram, I have 100% of the road represented. I've cut that in half to represent 50%, and inside that 50% I have 3/4 of a mile, since they've paved 3/4 of the mile and they've completed 50% of the work. For 100% of the work, I'd simply double the 50%, or double 3/4 of a mile, and 3/4 plus 3/4 is 1.5 miles. Number 2, 40% of x is 35. A. Write an equation that shows the relationship of 40% x and 35. I've written 3 equations for you to choose from. 4/10 x equals 35, or 40/100 x equals 35, or the fraction version of 4/10 x equals 35. B. Use your equation to find x. Show your reasoning. 4/10 x equals 35. That's the same as 4/10 times x equals 35. To solve for x, we can do 35 divided by 4/10 equals x. 35 divided by 4/10 equals x. To do that division problem, we would multiply by the reciprocal of 4/10. 35 times 10/4. And that equals 350/4. And 350/4 means 350 divided by 4, and that is 87 5/10. So x equals 87 5/10. Number 3. Priya has completed 9 exam questions. This is 60% of the questions on the exam. A. Write an equation representing this situation. Explain the meaning of any variables you use. 9 equals 6/10 times x, or 9 equals 60/100 times x. And the x represents the number of questions on the test. B. How many questions are on the exam? Show your reasoning. 9 questions divided by 6/10, or 60%, will tell me the number of questions that are on the test. 9 divided by 6/10 can be figured out by multiplying times the reciprocal of 6/10. So 9 times 10/6 equals x. 9 times 10/6 equals 30/2, or 15. So x equals 15. There are 15 questions on the exam. Here's another way to look at it. 9 questions completed divided by the x number of questions equals 60%. And 60% can be rewritten as 60 out of 100. So 9 over x equals 60 over 100, which can also be written as 9 over x equals 6/10. And of course 9 over x means 9 divided by x. So 9 divided by x equals 6/10, which can be rewritten as 9 divided by 6/10 equals x, since we're solving for x and we need to get the x alone. 9 divided by 6/10 can be done by multiplying by the reciprocal of 6/10, which is 10/6. So 9 times 10/6 equals x. And 9 times 10/6 equals 30/2, or 15. And again, x equals 15. And x represents the number of questions on the exam. Number 4. Answer each question. Show your reasoning. A. 20% of A is 11. What is A? Well, I know 20% goes into 100% 5 times. 20, 40, 60, 80, 100. That's 5 times. So 100% would include 5 sections, and each section would be worth 20%. And they say in this equation that 20% of A is 11. So I've put the value of 11 inside each of the 5 sections. And 5 times 11, or 11 times 5, is 55. So the value for A is 55. B. 75% of B is 12. What is B? So in my diagram, I have 100% divided into 4 sections. Inside each of the 4 sections, I've put 4 because 75% is 3/4. And so 3 out of the 4 boxes needs to be worth 12. So 4 plus 4 plus 4, which represents 75%, is equal to 12. 100% would be equal to 16. So B equals 16, or 4 times 4 equals 16. C. 80% of C is 20. What is C? So I'll do this one without drawing the diagrams. I'm just going to translate it. 80% is the same as 80 out of 100, or 80 over 100. Of means times, and is means equals. So I can rewrite this as 80 over 100 times C equals 20. Now that I have it rewritten, I remember that we're solving for C, so we have to get C by itself. 20 divided by 80 hundredths will equal C. Just like 2 times 10 equals 20, 20 divided by 2 equals 10. So just like 80 hundredths times C equals 20, 20 divided by 80 hundredths will equal C. To do this division problem, we'll have to multiply by the reciprocal of 80 hundredths. So 20 times 180ths equals 100 fourths, or 100 divided by 4, which is 25. C is 25. D. 200% of D is 18. What is D? This time I used a chart. 200% of D equals 18. 200% divided by 2 gives me 100%. I also need to divide the 18 by 2, and that gives me 9. So I know that 100% of D equals 9, or D equals 9. Number 5. For the equation 2n minus 3 equals 7, A. What is the variable? In that equation, the n is the variable. B. What is the coefficient of the variable? The coefficient in this equation is 2. C. Which of these is the solution to the equation? 2, 3, 5, 7, or n? Well, I substituted the 5 for the n, and I have 2 times 5 minus 3 equals 7. And I tested it out. 2 times 5 equals 10, minus 3 equals 7. So the solution to the equation is 5. Number 6. Which of these is a solution to the equation 1/8 equals 2/5 times x? So this can be translated as 2/5 times what number equals 1/8. So I substituted these numbers for x until I figured out which one was the correct one. I chose B, 5/16. 1/8 equals 2/5 times 5/16. And 2/5 times 5/16 is 10/80ths, or 1/8. So it's true. 1/8 does equal 2/5 times 5/16. Number 7. Find the quotients. The strategy here is to turn these decimals into whole numbers. A. 9 thousandths divided by 1 thousandths. That's the same as 9 divided by 1. And 9 divided by 1 is 9. Or 1 goes into 9 9 times. I turn them into whole numbers by making the 9 thousandths 1,000 times bigger and making it a 9. As you can see, I moved the decimal point 3 places to the right to make it 1,000 times greater. I also needed to do that to the 1,000ths. I moved that decimal 3 places to the right to make it 1,000 times greater. B. 9,000ths divided by 2,000ths. I used the same strategy. I made both numbers 1,000 times greater. So I have 9 divided by 2, and 9 divided by 2 equals 4 5/10. C. 45 10,000ths divided by 1,000ths. This time I needed to make the 45 10,000ths 10,000 times bigger, so I moved the decimal 4 places to the right. And I had to do that to the 1,000ths also, placing a 0 as a placeholder so that 1,000ths would become 10. And 45 divided by 10 is 4 5/10. D. 45 10,000ths divided by 2,000ths. I had to make the 45 10,000ths 10,000 times bigger to make it equal to 45. Therefore, I needed to make the 2,000ths 10,000 times bigger also, making it worth 20. And 45 divided by 20 is 2 25/100ths. Congratulations, you've completed Unit 6, Lesson 7, Revisit Percentages. Unit 6, Lesson 8, Equal and Equivalent. Number 1, A. Draw a diagram of x plus 3 and a diagram of 2x when x is 1. When x has a value of 1, 1 square on my grid equals x. X plus 3, that's a total of 4 squares, or 4 units. And then 2x, that's a total of 2 squares, or 2 units. B. Draw a diagram of x plus 3 and of 2x when x is 2. When the value of x is 2, 2 squares on my graph paper would equal 1x. So x plus 3 totals 5 squares, or 5 units, and 2x totals 4 squares, or 4 units. C. Draw a diagram of x plus 3 and of 2x when x is 3. When the value of x is 3, 3 squares in my grid would equal 1x. So x plus 3 equals a total of 6 squares, or 6 units. And 2x is a total of 6 units. D. Draw a diagram of x plus 3 and of 2x when x is 4. When the value of x is 4, x is represented by 4 squares on my grid. X plus 3 equals a total of 7 squares on my grid, or 7 units. And 2x is equivalent to 8 units. E. When are x plus 3 and 2x equal? When are they not equal? Use your diagrams to explain. Diagram C is equal, and diagrams A, B, and D are not equal. Here's a look at diagram A, and you can tell that they're not equivalent because x plus 3 has a value of 4 units and 2x only has a value of 2 units. Here's a look at diagram B, and you can tell that they're not equal because x plus 3 is equivalent to 5 units and 2x is equivalent to 4 units. Here's a look at diagram C, and these two expressions are equal because x plus 3 is equivalent to 6 units and 2x is also equivalent to 6 units. And here's a look at diagram D. They are not equal because x plus 3 is equivalent to 7 units and 2x is equivalent to 8 units. Number 2. A. Do 4x and 15 plus x have the same value when x is 5? When x equals 5, 4x is 4 times 5, and that equals 20. And 5 plus x is 5 plus 5, and that also equals 20. So yes, they do have the same value. B. Are 4x and 15 plus x equivalent expressions? Explain your reasoning. No, they are not equivalent expressions because equivalent expressions must have the same value no matter what the value of the variable is. For example, if x was worth 5, 4 times 5 is 20, and 15 plus 5 is 20. But if x were worth 3, 4 times 3 would be 12, and 15 plus 3 would be 18. So they are not equivalent expressions. Number 3. A. Check that 2b plus b and 3b have the same value when b is 1, when b is 2, and when b is 3. First, when the value of b is 1, 2 times 1 plus 1 is 3, and 3 times 1 is 3. So yes, they have the same value. When the value of b is 2, 2 times 2 plus 2 is 6, and 3 times 2 is 6. So yes, they have the same value. And finally, when b has the value of 3, 2 times 3 plus 3 equals 9, and 3 times 3 equals 9. So yes, they also have the same value. B. Do 2b plus b and 3b have the same value for all values of b? Explain your reasoning. Yes, they are both the same as 3b because 2b plus b equals 3b. C. Are 2b plus b and 3b equivalent expressions? Yes, because 2b plus b equals 3b. No matter what the value is for b, both expressions have a value 3 times greater than b. Number 4. 80% of x is equal to 100. A. Write an expression that shows the relationship of 80%, x, and 100. The equation that I wrote was 8/10 times x equals 100. B. Use your equation to find x. My equation is 8/10 times x equals 100. Just like 2 times 5 equals 10, and 10 divided by 2 equals 5, 8/10 times x equals 100, and 100 divided by 8/10 will equal x. We'll have to multiply by the reciprocal of 8/10, which means 1,000 divided by 8, and 1,000 divided by 8 equals 125. The value for x is 125. Number 5. For each story problem, write an equation to represent the problem and then solve the equation. Be sure to explain the meaning of any variables you use. A. Jada's dog was 5.5 inches tall when it was a puppy. Now her dog is 14.5 inches taller than that. How tall is Jada's dog now? 5.5 inches plus 14.5 inches equals 20. Jada's dog is 20 inches tall. This giant blue X covering up the 20 is the variable. It represents the height of Jada's dog. So the variable, in this case, is worth 20. Who knows how tall her dog might be in the future, and that variable would be worth a different value. But today, it's worth 20. B. Lynn picked 9 3/4 pounds of apples, which was 3 times the weight of the apples Andre picked. How many pounds of apples did Andre pick? 9 3/4 equals 3 times x, and this x represents the pounds of apples that Andre picked. 9 3/4 divided by 3 will give us the value for x. 9 3/4 can also be written as 39/4. And we're going to multiply by the reciprocal of 3, and that's 1 over 3. 39/4 times 1/3 equals 39/12, or 3 3/12, which is the same as 3 1/4. Andre picked 3 1/4 pounds of apples. Congratulations, you have completed Unit 6, Lesson 8, Equal and Equivalent.